To this day, the story behind the crews and final journeys of these ships are still shrouded in mystery. Join us as we set sail for treacherous waters with 10 unsolved cases of abandoned ships. Number 10. Lunatic. Jure Šterk was an experienced sailor who single-handedly sailed around the world between 1991 and 1994. Throughout his sailing career, he crossed the Pacific Ocean once, the Indian Ocean twice, and the Atlantic Ocean a staggering 8 times. In December 2007, when he was 70 years old, Šterk embarked on a journey around the world on his sailboat, Lunatic. His only form of communication was an amateur radio, and the last time he checked in was on January 1st, 2009. On January 26th, Lunatic was spotted around 1,000 nautical miles off the coast of Australia. Šterk was not on deck, and the vessel looked damaged. 3 months later, Lunatic was boarded by crew from the RV Roger Revelle science vessel. The boat had been deserted, his sails were torn, and the last log entry was marked January 2nd, 2009. Number 9. Tai Ching 21. On November 9th, 2008, the Tai Ching 21, a 50-ton Taiwanese fishing vessel, was found adrift in the Pacific Ocean near Kiribati. The last transmission from the ship had been made on October 28th. The vessel had been gutted by fire several days prior to its discovery, and 3 rafts were missing along with its longboat. The Tai Ching 21 was empty. All 29 crew members were gone. One strange thing is that no mayday call had been put out. An area of the ocean north of Fiji measuring around 21,000 square miles was searched by US and New Zealand aircrafts, but no trace of the ship's captain or crew was ever found. Number 8. Jianseng. This 260-foot tanker was spotted by an Australian Coast Watch airplane in 2006. The vessel was drifting in the Gulf of Carpentaria, around 110 miles southwest of Weipa, Queensland. The area where the ship was discovered was notorious for illegal Indonesian fishing vessels, as well as other illegal operations involving the smuggling of people and drugs. Upon boarding the vessel, the crew from the Storm Bay, an Australian patrol boat, didn't find any signs of recent human activity nor of potential involvement in illegal activities. Several documents were found indicating that the tanker was called Jianseng, although a number of identifying features, including the name, had been painted over. The engines were inoperable and the boarding party was unable to restart them, which led them to the conclusion that Jianseng had been adrift for a very long time. A large quantity of rice was discovered on board, indicating that the ship had probably been used to resupply fishing boats with fuel and food outside Australian exclusive economic zone. The ship had been extensively stripped, prompting a theory that it had been on its way to a scrapyard when the tow line broke. Number 7. Aim-6. On January 8, 2003, the Aim-6 was discovered drifting in Australian waters around 80 nautical miles from Rowley Shoals. The ship was sailing under an Indonesian flag and had been registered in Taiwan. No crew members were found on board, despite the fact that the ship had plenty of provisions and fuel. The crew's personal belongings were still on the ship, and there were no signs of distress. The Aim-6 had been sighted 5 days before it was boarded. At the time, the motor was functional, and the ship was underway when the sailors boarded the abandoned vessel. Its rudder was locked and the engine was dead. Only one member of the Aim-6 crew was ever found. He confessed that the ship's captain and engineer had been killed by crew members who afterwards fled to their homeland. He never told the police why the murders had occurred. Number 6. Resolved. Sailors from the HMS Mallard found the Resolved merchant brig drifting at sea on August 29, 1884. They tried signaling its crew but didn't get a response and decided to board the ship. They found that all Resolved crew members were gone, even though there were signs that the ship had recently been lived in. The lamps were burning, the galley fire was alight, and the last log entry had been made 6 hours prior to the ship's discovery. The lifeboat was missing, and the ship showed minimal structural damage damage. A large iceberg was spotted nearby, and it was suspected that the 4 passengers and 7 crew panicked and abandoned the Resolven after it hit the ice. No trace of the people on board was ever found. Number 5. Seabird. The grounded Seabird was discovered at Eastern Beach, Rhode Island in 1750 or 1760. The merchant brig was deserted and a longboat was missing. The Seabird appeared to have been abandoned in sight of land. Food was laid on the table and coffee was boiling on the stove. In the galley, the only living things found aboard were a cat and a dog. 1 week after the vessel was found, it disappeared, and just like its crew, it was never seen again. Number 4. Beikimo. When the Beikimo became trapped in an ice pack near the town of Barrow, Alaska, its crew abandoned it and took shelter in the town. The ship's cargo consisted of furs, and when the crew returned to retrieve them, the ship had broken free. On October 8, 1931, the vessel became moored again, and some of the crew were taken by aircraft while 15 men stayed behind. They intended to wait out the winter. After a powerful blizzard struck in late November, the ship disappeared. A few days later, an Inuit seal hunter told the men that he'd seen it about 45 miles from their position. After tracking the Beikimo down, the crewmen retrieved the most valuable furs and abandoned the ship, deciding that it wouldn't survive the winter. The Beikimo didn't sink. It was spotted many times over the next few decades. Alaska's Phantom ship, as it was subsequently nicknamed, continued to drift without a crew. It was last seen by a group of Inuit in 1969. 38 years after it was abandoned, nobody knows what became of the vessel. Number 3. Korean People's Army ghost boats. Over 100 ill-equipped small wooden boats were discovered in Japanese waters between 2013 and 2017. The only clues regarding their origin were signs written in Korean which indicated that they belonged to the Korean People's Army and remains of North Korean flags. The most troubling aspect of this discovery were the contents of the mysterious vessels. The corpses of at least 25 people in advanced decomposition were found inside some of the boats. The Japanese Coast Guard found several skulls separated from the bodies. Nobody knows what happened to the sailors, who were all dressed in civilian clothing, and what had caused their deaths. Some possibly died of starvation or exposure to the elements, while others may have been murdered. The state of decomposition made it almost impossible to determine what had killed them. Number 2. Carol A. Deering. The Carol A. Deering became derelict in unknown circumstances on January 28, 1921, after passing a Cape Lookout lightship in North Carolina. 3 days later, the ship was found run aground on Diamond Shoals off the coast of Cape Hatteras. Its crew was gone, along with their belongings, the ship's log and navigation equipment, and the 2 lifeboats. There were signs that food was being prepared for the next day's meal when the ship was abandoned. Although found several hundred miles from it, the 5-masted commercial schooner had sailed the area known as the Bermuda Triangle, famous for alleged supernatural activity and the mysterious disappearance of ships. Some have attributed the vessel's missing crew to elements of the paranormal, while others cited mutiny and piracy as possible explanations. Number 1. Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste is perhaps the most famous abandoned ship in history. Since it was discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean, it has been the inspiration for numerous documentaries, plays, films, and novels. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste left New York City and set sail for Genoa, Italy, with a cargo consisting of over 1,700 barrels of alcohol. 10 people were on board, including Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia Matilda. During the course of the next 2 weeks, the vessel reportedly encountered harsh weather. The last log entry was marked November 25th and indicated that the Mary Celeste was approximately 9 nautical miles from the Azores Islands. 10 days later, the crew from a British brig called the Gracia spotted the Mary Celeste moving erratically towards them. Suspecting something was wrong, David Morehouse, captain of the De Gracia, ordered some of his crew to investigate. Upon climbing aboard the Mary Celeste, the crew discovered the ship deserted. It was still seaworthy despite the 3 feet of water found in the hold. The mystery was further enhanced by the fact that the cargo and personal belongings, some of which included valuable items, were largely undisturbed. There were ample provisions in the stores, but no signs the food had been prepared. There was no obvious indication that a fire or a violent incident had taken place. The only lifeboat from the Mary Celeste was missing, and it was believed that the ship had been abandoned in an orderly fashion, but nobody could identify the reason why. Numerous theories have been proposed. These include mutiny, murder, insurance fraud, noxious fumes from the ship's cargo, natural phenomena such as sea quakes and water spouts, or even paranormal intervention and marine monster attacks. Despite the abundance of proposed scenarios, the true fate of the souls on board the Mary Celeste remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries.
Hey guys, it's Angelo, producer of this channel. I wanted to let you all know I've set up a Patreon account where I'll be offering very exciting and very exclusive bonus footage available only to people on Patreon. There, your voice will be heard regarding things you want to see and which direction I take my channel. Click on the end screen here to find out more, or on the link in the description below. Thanks guys, and I hope to see you on Patreon soon.